Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. There's been rain, I think, in most parts of central Uganda. I can only speak for central Uganda. I don't know what is happening in Karamoja, but in parts of central Uganda, like my place, it has really rained. I had a 5,000 liter tank that was almost empty, but as I speak now, it's in a halfway full. Yeah. So the rain since night, I think it started at around 11. It has rained till like 6. It wasn't too much, but it kept raining. Good morning, Seth. Yeah, hope you're well. I'm doing well. So I'm going to try to share facts about all the cars. That there are so many myths that people. Morning, Kenneth. Thank you for being on standby. Seth, it means a lot. So there are so many myths that people throw around about old cars that they end up scaring people, and they end up making people commit money to newer cars or to newborn cars. Yet they could have used a lot of that money for something else and bought probably a simpler car, bought a cheaper car, and still managed to live by properly with a car that didn't disturb them, or a car that So for example, like I've said, I've been driving old cars since 2010, and of course there are some bad apples. I bought some bad apples, but I can tell you that that's one thing I don't regret. Because it was a learning process, and my lessons are what I'm using to try and help people like you to make sure that you don't go that road, to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes, in quotes, that I made. So I make it my business to make sure that you get the information that you need to keep yourself out of trouble when you decide to finally buy a car. I know people that are buying new cars when they should actually be buying used cars. I know people that are buying Primos at 35 million when they can buy a Primo of the same model at about 15 million, and they use the 20 million for something else. I'll give you an example. I know someone that was starting to construct his house because he has a family. So they began construction, and the goal was to actually enter within a year. But along the way, they had a Primo, and along the way, no, it wasn't a Primo. They had a RAV4, yeah, but they had just started construction, and along the way they got distracted. Someone told them of a place where they could get a car on loan, and they could get a car at 35 million. They deposit around 18 and pay the balance in installments. And when they sold the car they had immediately, topped up some money, went and got a car on loan. And 1 year down the road, they are not able to finish their house. They are still paying the loan on the car. Good morning to all. They are still paying the loan on the car. The house is not complete. Yeah. And in a way, I find that they got destruction along the way, because their RAV4 was moving perfectly. It had no troubles. But you know, the excitement that comes with getting a new car, normally it's troublesome, although people don't realize it. So they got excited along the way, got a car that in my opinion is not worth the 35 million. Of course, in the bond, because it's a new buy, it's 35 million. If you can afford it, buy it. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. So they bought a car 35 million, which they didn't actually have. They used some of the money they could have used for the house, and still, instead of getting more money for the house, they first had to get money for the car, because, well, anytime if you don't pay. If you miss a month without giving them money, they can come for their car, and their house can wait. So their house, 1 year down the road, they have not yet entered, and they might not enter in the next 6 months to 1 year, because when they have finished paying for the car, then the car will need some repairs. And contrary to what people tell you, that the new car you can drive it for 3 years without repairing, that's quite impossible. You see, for the guys that saw where I live, if you drive a car, it might be new, but in the place where I live, it's impossible for you to drive a car for 3 years without doing some repairs. You'll definitely, they are small like me, I don't do big repairs, but of course you'll need to do some repairs. And if you're moving to a place like my brother here, I don't remember his name, what was his name? He lives in PG. Good morning, Brian. That's funny. Yeah, thank you for coming. So there's a brother of ours here who lives in PG and works in Tinder. So if you live in PG and work in Tinder, the fuel is going to be on a high end for some time. When you drive, when you go kuvuga banange kati ono agudde mwala kati wuyo bamusindika busindisa okumujjayo. You see? And normally, let me teach you something. If you're driving a car and you get a problem like that, for example, your car gets stuck in a ditch, normally it's easier for you. If you're pushing the car, it's better for you to push the car when it's not, when the engine is not on. Don't accelerate at all. All of you people just put your energy in removing the car. It will go. I've tried it before and it works. So I was saying, for me, I find that it doesn't make sense. Now, people will tell you, and a lot of motivational speakers keep saying this on TV, I want to send you some airtime. Whoa, thank you very much. Yes, my WhatsApp number is registered. Saying thank you, Seth. I like your program so much. Very soon I'm sending you. Thank you very much, Tor. Thank you very much. Yeah, my number is registered on Airtel Money. It has the names, my name's Arthur Chisenyi. Thank you so much. So I'm saying it's important because I see majority of my followers are men, and even the women that follow me are hustlers. You get, because it's very hard to find a woman that is trying to learn all these things about cars when they don't want to be able to take care of their own car, or they don't want to make decisions for on their own. Normally women, abakazi abateri ba hustlers, they will wait for their boyfriend or husband to buy a car, and then after buying it, fuel it, and then afterwards take care of it. So the boyfriend or husband knows the mechanic, he knows what's wrong with the car, and in the end the husband will actually take the car from her. But for I have friends that are hustlers, that when we went straight out of campus, I taught them how to drive, and after teaching them how to drive, they bought their first car. Like for example, a friend of mine works in Tanzania now. She's a musician, she's a music teacher still, and when we came out of campus, the first car she bought was a Starlet. It was a Starlet. And yeah, you see in Uganda now, we have guys like this that help kids cross the road. And normally when you stop at a place like this, you engage the hazard lights, you see? So that the people behind you know that, okay, now you have to stop, something is going on in front there. Yeah. So CVT gearbox. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. So what happens is, she bought her first car, which was a Starlet. She drove it for like a year. She knocked. Yeah, and then she bought a fan cargo, which she drove for about 6 years until she got a job in Tanzania. Then she sold it, and I know the person that is driving the fan cargo right now. So what happened with her fan cargo is that she drove it one time. Her village is in Kabale. So one time she's going to Kabale, I think she got a boyfriend to drive. She got a boyfriend to drive her, and the boyfriend was kind of reckless. Now could be an engine, so the engine blew, but they bought a new engine and put it in there, and that's how she was able to drive the fan cargo that long. And even the person that has it now hasn't changed the engine yet. Yeah. So but she was a hustler. She was a hustler, by the way. She was a very strong girl. She bought almost all the things she has. She has bought for herself. She has bought lots of land and all. So I'm sure that most of my followers are like that, and some of you, I'm sure you're the kind of book started from the bottom kind, like me. I started from the bottom, and I'm building everything coin by coin, shilling by shilling. And The things I've gone through, I don't want you to go through them. I don't want you to make a mistake, because in Africa, for example, in Africa, a man, your strength is in being able to have a home for your family. And a home, I'm talking about a permanent home, where your kids can go and they say, okay, we have come from school, we go home, and they will live there until their adult life, when they actually, they finally move out. Now, motivational speakers keep telling people, enyumba erya sente, simanya tozimba muchalo, because to be honest, and akuja kwanga you're rich, it's very hard to find that someone can buy a plot in Chira right now. The guys that buy plots in Chira and Namugongo are guys that have money, a lot of money, by the way. They buy land in Chira, Chanja, Chisasi, Namugongo, Sonde. So if one of my followers actually has a house in those areas, Munene, Mubede, you get. So right now, the people that actually, even Gayaza right now is becoming very expensive, because before I bought land in Matuga, I went to Gayaza, and the places where they were taking me in my price range were quite further than, you see that the guys that saw where I live, you think that's far? Try buying land in Gayaza at less than 30 million and you'll tell me it will be far. They'll take you like 30, 45 kilometers away from town. It will be further than where I live. The same thing happens on Hoima Road. Okay, it might be the same on Masaka Road and Ginger Road. So, but I'm telling you that as a man, an African man, the first thing, and you know, the African economies are very unpredictable. It's very hard for you to know when things will stop working out. It doesn't matter which job you have. You could be working in the UN and tomorrow you lose the job there and then. It's the same thing that happened during COVID. People lost their jobs and they didn't have any compensations. You get? And the people that were renting at that time, that's when they saw that life was hard. You get? Because you have a landlord that wants money. I find that the only reason a man or woman in Uganda should be renting is if they really can't afford to get out of the rat race. But if you can afford to get out of the rat race and you live renting, please do. So and the reason why I normally I've received some money here. Thank you very much, Seth, from a bank. Thank you very much for my airtime. So I'm saying that okay, I've gone past my shortcut. Now I have to go the main road. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that normally, as an African men in Buganda Bagamba, what did that one man? You know, my mentor told me those things. My mentor told me, Toba Musajja Pakango Zimbi Amaka. That's in Buganda. Toba Musajja, you're not a man until you have built a home for your family. If you have put a roof over their head, you get. And I want you to understand that you see the cars we drive, you see that Subaru Forester in front of me. Right now it's brand new, but he could be driving past that lorry. You see that lorry, and Neteguka, it comes down on that Subaru. If that lorry came down on that Subaru, it would be spoiled beyond recognition. You get, and just like that, you see that Subaru, he might have bought it about 30 to 35 million, and just like that, the 35 million has gone. But you know what happens in your house? Thank you very much, Seth. Thank you very much for the airtime. I really appreciate. Yeah, I've received. So you need to understand that these cars that we buy, they help us move around, but it's very easy for your car to get destroyed in a minute. You remember there is this musician who sang Gendo Gule Motoka, Oleme Kufanga Toguze Motoka. He was driving, I think he was going to a concert, and his car caught fire. And it got destroyed totally. He could not even sell it anywhere. You get? So you need to understand that these cars that we buy, it does not matter how much you've bought it, it can be spoiled in an instant. But if you build a home, your home will not be spoiled that quickly. You get? It can't. So for men, I want you to know that before you decide to go and say Kangenengule Moto Kempia, think about that. Okay? And also, people that say that Enyumba Teza Magoba, for me, I've been telling people For me, ever my land titles are in the bank. Why? The bank is the safest place to keep your land titles. And but normally, if you were to keep it in the bank just for keeping, you would you'd have to pay the bank money to keep the titles for you. But for me, what I do is I give them the title and they give me a loan. People fear bank loans, but if you get a bank loan and use it the right way, for example, if you wanted to get a bank loan for your shop, get the bank loan and put it in the shop. Don't get a bank loan and then start eating chicken. If you get a bank loan and start eating chicken, that money will die, zijakufa, and then you'll say sente za loan. You get, because some people get money, he has gotten money for business from the bank, and then they start paying school fees. That's a very bad move. But me, I've worked with bank loans and they have worked for me. Yeah, so away from that, because my goal today is talking about old cars, but I don't want to tell you to buy an old car without justifying a reason for you to buy an old car. Because for me, for example, I've told you that for me it's better to have a house that is worth 70 million or 80 million than to have a car that is 20 million and have a house that is worth 8 million. I see guys on social media and babes that are advocating for people to build cheap houses. You get, so they find someone driving a Subaru that is worth 35 million, but they are living in a house that is worth 18 million. You get, for me, I don't find that it makes sense. Find someone driving a car that is worth 40 million, they built a house, they built one room, they are yet to find money to build the entire house. It doesn't make sense to me. You find someone living in, built a house, but they don't have a garage for their car. They don't have a fence to protect their other assets. For me, it doesn't make sense. I want to justify why, if you cannot afford both a new car and a home, you should buy a used car. Because people have bought used cars since time immemorial. I know people that have a lot of money, but they buy used cars. And the moment it starts disturbing him, he sells, buys another used car. You get, I know plenty of rich men that are richer than me, richer than the rich people you would think, richer than most of us that are on YouTube right now. People that have money. You get, people that can make about 200 million every 5 months. People that can make 500 million a year, but they are still driving used cars. Why? Because it's better to have assets that can actually feed your car than to have a car and no assets. You get, it's better to have a home where you know that it's going to be safe than to have a car. You buy for example a Harrier 50 million and you're renting a house of 1 million. You get, so when things go south, you'll sell the Harrier to continue renting a house of 1 million, and then if things get worse, you'll actually have to move out of the house of 1 million, downgrade to a house of about 350. You get, that's bad. So away from that, I'm thinking my point has been gotten. You know now why sometimes you may need to buy an old car. You get, because if I can buy an old car at 13 million, why am I buying a new one at 40? So yesterday I talked about cars that are 6 million and below, and you saw they are quite a number. You actually realize you can even buy a Harrier car at 6 million. That's for the people that like luxury. And why I want to break the myths around old cars. Normally they'll tell you that old cars have a lot of problems. Okay, they'll tell you that old cars have a lot of problems. I'll tell you this, it's in our interest as human beings that normally when we get problems, when we use a certain product and we get problems with it, we start discouraging other people from using it. It's in human nature. Okay, that's why you find that because Council Yunus had a problem with the Golf, he will tell you that buy a Golf at your own risk, because the Golf has a problem. Because I had problems with the Golf, I'll tell you that buy a Golf at your own risk, and I'll even tell you the problems. Okay, now I'll tell you that the biggest problem with the German cars is actually not the cars. The biggest problem with German cars, hi Ryan, So the biggest problem with German cars is actually not the cars. The biggest problem with German cars is the mechanics. Thank you, Ryan from Bangladesh. Thank you for being here. The biggest problem with German cars is the mechanics. Mechanics for German cars in Uganda are not honest. Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, BMW, you get, mechanics for those cars are not honest at all. So the biggest problem of German cars, the economy, I think it's going to get better. It's not good at all, but it's going to get better. Yeah, the biggest problem of German cars is the mechanics. So I want you to know that you can buy a good German car and your mechanic actually spoils it while you see. Why? Because there are not so many mechanics that understand German cars, and because they know they are few and they know each other, they can actually spoil your car together. You go from this one garage, you go to another, they do the same thing, and then you keep going in circles with your car. I hope you get what I'm saying. So the biggest problem of those cars is actually not the cars, it's the mechanics. If mechanics understood and were honest while working on those cars, people would drive German cars and enjoy them. So there you have it. You can actually buy a German car if driving tests are not hard in Uganda. So if you can get a good German car mechanic, you will enjoy your German car. I think it's the same thing that happened with Subaru sometime. But I think now Subaru mechanics are getting so it's fairly good. So normally when we get problems with something, we start discouraging people from going there. I've done this math before for you. Okay? When someone tells you old cars have a lot of problems, what they actually mean is that hi George. Okay, I'm going to talk about that. When someone tells you that old cars have a lot of problems, they don't actually mean that the old car has a problem. They tell you that when you have bought, what they mean is that when you have bought the old car, the first few months are going to be you trying to make the car, trying to put the car up to your standard. That's the only thing they mean. Because when you buy an old car, you have to make it better because it's old. You get what I'm saying? It's like, I know you people have kumivumba in Owino. You would know that you would go to Owino, buy a shirt, and then you take it to the tailor to make it better. You get? So the first few hours, if you bought like 10 shirts from Owino, you first go to the tailor and patch it up, make it fitting and all. The same thing happened with trousers. The same thing happens with shoes from Owino. You'd have to take them to the shoe repairman to get them better. You get? So when someone tells you that old cars have a lot of problems, that's actually what they mean. They don't really mean that old cars have a lot of problems. No. That's not what they mean. Because me, as a person that has driven old cars for some time, I will tell you that yes, old cars have a lot of problems, but they're not really a lot of problems. It's just that when someone has bought a new car, and new in the sense of like, I've just bought the car, not new in the sense of like in Piatu, they expect it to be Ryan, Toyota is the best car for Ugandan roads. It's very reliable. I think Toyota is very reliable worldwide. So when someone buys a car, they expect it to be in almost new condition. That's why even when someone buys a car at 2.5 million, they want to check it to make sure that it's good. This is human nature. I'm spending money to buy a car, it should be new. Because when I talk to people, I'm going to tell them, I hope you get what I'm saying. And it's not bad what they are trying to do. You get? So when someone tells you a motor it's because majority of the time when someone buys a car, they have 4 million shillings and they want to buy a car at 4 million shillings that is perfect. That is why I tell you normally, that if you want to buy a used car, let's say old car, and you want to buy this car at 4 million, don't use all the 4 million to buy a car. Use only 3 million. Keep the 1 million to make your car better. That's what I normally tell you. And it's the honest truth. And I want you to always take note of this. If you want to buy a car a used car in Uganda and you have 10 million, don't use 10 million, use 8 million, because you'll use the 2 million to put your car to your standards. Okay, that way you will not be one of those people that say emotoka enkadde n'ebizibu. I hope I'm clear. Yes, emotoka enkadde zibaamu n'ebyokukola nze sibiyita bizibu. For example, if you find an old car that has been driving on the road for the past 5 to 10 years and you have to repair shock absorbers, I find that to be a normal repair. Because even the person that bought a car at 35 million from the bond, they're going to drive it for like 4 years and they'll replace shocks, they'll replace bushes, they'll replace everything. Yet they bought it at 35 million. Yet you're going to buy we are talking about the RAV4 at 6 million. And let me tell you this, when you buy an old car, many repairs don't need to be repaired in the first 6 months. The only reason we repair those things is because we want the car to be almost new. Just wanting something better. And I've told this one of my friends that came for me to help them get a car. I told them we are going to get a car at 3 million, but I'm telling you, you'll drive this car for the first month without repairing anything. You will know that this needs to be repaired, this needs to be repaired, this needs to be repaired, but you can drive without repairing those things. Now, this is one thing that people don't tell you. When they tell you that old cars have a lot of problems, they don't tell you that some of these problems, you can overlook them for some time. That's the magic of an old car. The magic of an old car is that if you handle, that's why I tell you, when you're buying an old car, don't go to the bonds. There you're going to be wasting a lot of time. They'll not even be honest with you. I tell you that if you're going to buy, if you're going to be buying an old car, it's better that you buy from an individual, the real owner. Buy from the real owner, because if you handle the real owner properly, he will actually tell you, if the car has shock absorber problems, he will tell you, shock if it has battery problems, he will still tell you. If you don't go to them like, oh, I'm buying your car, you're now broke, that's why I'm buying. Because majority of buyers, from what I've realized, most people, when they go to buy cars from the real owners, they throw it in those people's faces that I know you're selling your car because you have problems. I know you're selling your car because now you're broke, so you're looking for money. And they try as much as possible to crush the other person's spirit so that that person sells as cheaply as possible. That's what the brokers do. That approach is not right, because you're buying from a person, you're also a person. It will also come to a time when you're selling. So handle them that like in human beings, and they will tell you everything that you need to repair immediately. Then they'll tell you everything that you can repair in a year. Those people, they've been knowing their cars. That's why I'm telling you, you can buy a car and drive it for a year without repairing anything. You get what I'm saying? So it's important for you to note that old cars are not actually that bad. Of course, they are cars. You see that Terrano, that's a Terrano in front of me. Never buy a Terrano if you're still a hustler, because even rich people have given up on Terranos. The guy parks the Terrano, najivako nagamba, this car, no. They are very comfortable, those cars, the Terranos are very comfortable. But once it starts breaking down, because they are turbocharged, of course, and they are diesel. And I told you, diesel cars are very expensive to maintain. The only diesel cars that people have been able to maintain on the road properly for some time, they have been, for example, the Land Cruisers and the Hiluxes. People have been able to keep them on the road, and they have to maintain them. Somehow, those cars don't have a lot of problems. But there are cars that have problems. Those Terrano, Big Horn, they have a lot of problems. So even the Super Custom of late is becoming problematic, I think, because as we speak, the Super Customs are getting extinct. They are no longer coming into the country because they are older years. Yeah, so they're having problems. But what I'm telling you is, don't let anyone lie to you that old cars have problems. They don't. Yes, you have to be careful when you're buying an old car, because chances are high that if you're not careful, you can get a bad car. But if you inspect properly, if you do very good pre-purchase inspection, I will tell you that you can get a very, very good car, very used car, very good used car. You can get it even in the old number plates and you enjoy the car. Like for example, I'm enjoying my Corolla. It's old, I'll tell you. It's an old car. But you saw where I live and I go there every day. I come back every day. Okay? To town every day, Monday to Friday. Because of the fuel prices, I don't move on weekends unless I'm going to move for something that is giving me money. So I don't move Saturday, I don't move Sunday. I stay in the neighborhood. Okay? But Monday to Friday, I move to town and back, and I've never had my car break down on the road. So you can get a used car, an old car, and you get peace as well. But of course, avoid the cars I've talked about. So normally, what problems? In fact, the first myth that you need to take away, because I know someone who bought a Primo new model from the bond, and that very week the engine blew. You get? So you need to understand that even bond cars have problems. It's just that the problems of bond cars are not so common. Sometimes even when someone buys a new car from the bond and they get problems, they don't even talk about them. Kubanga chiswazamu korumu okugula emotoka mu bond nefa wali otonodewa. You get? Yet for us that buy all the cars, if it gets a problem, we are open about it. You get? So the first myth is that old cars have problems. They are not really problems. Old cars have things that you need to work on. You need to keep a positive mindset now. You can buy a car at 3 million, drive it. Okay? So now I'm going to go into the kind of problems that I normally find, that I know old cars, if you buy a car, an old car, the problems that I know you're going to get, I'm going to start talking about them now. You see, there is a video where I say don't buy 6 categories of cars you should not buy. And I talked about cars that are from the villages, 35 kilometers from Kampala, and I told you don't buy those cars. And I told you don't buy lady-driven cars. I told you don't buy cars that have been parked for a very long time. Okay, what other category did I talk about? Yeah, but I did 6 categories of cars. Okay, and the reasons I gave include some of the things I'm going to talk about now. Okay, some of the problems that you will find with old cars. One, normally all the shock absorbers are fried. They are bad. Shock absorbers are normally bad. Why? Because people that drive old cars have gotten used to the fact that, okay, a car can have bad shock absorbers and you continue driving it. Shock absorbers are important, but they're mostly important for comfort. And because someone is already driving an old car and it's ordinary, and because also the shocks on the market are fake. By the way, the shocks on the Ugandan market are fake. Even the ones that they sell very expensively are fake. So someone realizes that I've bought shocks like 3 times now. You find that every 6 months someone buys shock absorbers and they give up. So they stop buying shock absorbers. So one of the issues you're going to find with old cars is that you'll find that most of the times you'll find all 4 shock absorbers are bad. Normally that's why they tell you it's because boba you want an almost new car. If you want an almost new car, by the way, if you're driving in Kampala, try as much as possible to always stop for pedestrians to cross. They appreciate it, and I'm sure if it were your mother or sister or wife or kid and they were crossing the road and someone stopped for them to cross, you would appreciate it. Ugandan drivers are not disciplined enough, so they rarely leave people. Even at zebra crossings, they don't let people cross, and it's annoying. You find that you stop at the zebra crossing, people start crossing, and an idiot comes and they come over speeding. You get? It's a zebra crossing. We studied about these things since primary school. So what am I saying? Normally the shock absorbers are dead. People that drive used cars, old cars like me, sometimes you got used to the fact that shock absorbers will get broken down every 6 months. So we just give up on buying the shock absorbers. So if you want a car that is almost new, when you buy a car, sometimes you'll end up buying shock absorbers, and the pair is at around between 180 to 300. You'll find that if you're going to buy the pair that is 300, most of the times the mechanic will tell you to buy a pair that is 300, because in actual sense it's not 300. You'll find that the mechanic can get it at 200. So nakuja ke mitwalo 10 per pair. You get. So you'll find that I buy a car and then I put 600,000 buying shock absorbers. Then you'll find that it's expensive. Someone tells me, I bought a car from the bond, I did not buy shock absorbers, I did not spend any money. But I'm going to do the math shortly for you. So one of the things you'll have to replace is the shock absorbers. The other thing you'll have to replace when you buy when you buy a car from an old car is the suspension system. Now the suspension includes the cross members, the ball joints, you get the bush system, all of it behind and in front. Majority of the time you'll have to replace it. Why am I saying you'll have to replace it? Because when someone is driving an old car and they get to a time that they want to sell, they stop repairing those things. If they realize that, okay, I might sell my car in the next 5 months, they stop repairing anything. And the things that get blown quickly are the bushes. The ball joint gets spoiled. You get the cross members and all those things. They get spoiled very quickly. So they stop repairing them because Achimanya, I'm going to sell and the buyers are going to come and want to buy my car cheaply. So if they're going to buy cheaply, why repair anything? So they stop repairing. But all these things that I'm talking about, you actually don't have to repair them. Now you're going to ask yourself, well, then why are you telling me? Because these are the things that make new cars feel new. These are the things that make new cars feel new. The shock absorbers, the suspension system. Now, for you to repair the suspension system, once say ball joints and all, you will need about 500,000, 500 to 700,000, depending on which car and which quality of things you're using. So, for example, if you bought an old car at around 5 million, okay, and you end up, you have to replace the shock absorbers, you have to replace the suspension system, and I already told you the shock absorbers can cost you 600, then the suspension system another 700, you're already spending 1.3 on a car. Remember, you bought it 5 million, so that's 6.3. You get. Now, the person that bought a new car at 20 million is still telling you, I save. Do you think they still save? Remember, you've put new shocks in your car, you put new suspension system in your car, and you have so far spent 6.3. Now, normally, because when we buy a car, we want it to seem new. The other thing we look at is the interior. So you'll want to put new seat covers. You'll want to because when someone is selling their old car, normally they remove the good radio and they put a bad radio. It's very hard for you to find anyone that sells you a car and they have left a good radio. They change it. So you want to buy another radio. Now, seat covers, if you go to these guys that make seat covers in Uganda, they'll make seat covers for you for between 300 and 400,000. You've already spent 1.3, 400, that's 1.7. So you'll put new seat covers. Now, if you also want the floor to be repaired, they put a diva and they'll put it at around 80 to 100. That's 500. So you spent, it was 1.7, yeah, so now it's 1.8. But then the interior is done. Good morning, Martha. So, so you've put 1.1, we said 1.5, 1.8, so 1.9. So, and you want to buy radio. Now, I know places where you can get a cheap radio at around 150 that has Bluetooth, that has video, you can put flash and all at around 150. So you can spend roughly 2 million. You have repaired the interior, you have repaired the suspension, you have repaired you have put new shocks. Now, the other thing that you'll need to do is you might need to buy new tires. You will definitely need to buy new tires. Now, if you have bought a small car like mine, the tires will cost you about 700,000. That is 2.7. Now, if you bought a car at about 5 million, you have invested 7.7. Okay? The person that bought a new car from the board on 20 million is still telling you they saved. Says what they tell you they saved is they saved time to repair these things. Of which I'll tell you that if you live in Uganda, you have the time to do these repairs. Because there is no Ugandan that is too busy, especially in my age bracket. And I know that majority of you guys are in my age bracket. There is no person in my age bracket that is too busy for life. That you can't spare a day to go and get these things repaired. That's impossible. You get. And some of these things don't need to be repaired when you're there. For example, the person that repairs seats, they come and do measurements. They measure the seats, they go make them, then you get a Saturday or Sunday, and then you go, the seats get fitted. You get. Is it possible to buy spares from Toyota to avoid the specs? Toyota spares, okay, like I said, some of the spares at Toyota are not worth buying, and they don't have some of these spares. You'll find that if you're buying an old car like a Toyota Chikumi, they don't have the spares. So it's best you know, when these people that buy spares from Dubai and Japan, when they go to buy, they show them grades: grade A, grade B, grade C, grade D, and then normally they buy grade D because grade D is cheap. And you know how Ugandans like buying cheap things. You get grade D for us. That's where the problem normally comes. But don't, even the grade D products, you can drive it for a year. And as you drive old cars, there's some things you'll get used to. You'll get used to the fact that sometimes the shocks will get broken and you don't have to put new shocks. That's what I said. So we have already used 2.7, but remember we have new tires. Okay, we have new tires, we have new shocks, we have a new suspension system, we have a new interior, we have a new radio. Now, normally when you buy an old car, especially the very cheap ones, 5 million to 3 million, the electronics are not so good, so some windows don't work. Now, but these are facts. Don't let anyone lie to you that you can go and buy a car at 5 million when everything it works. Sometimes you will find one when everything works, especially when someone is selling a car and they really need money or they have a problem. Because sometimes you'll find a person selling their car when they just want to buy a new plot, or they want to finish a balance on the plot. So they need 5 million, finished balance on their plot, 1 million, use 1 million to transfer the title in their names. They get another car of 3 million. The games that I normally play with my cars. Okay? So, so far is 7.7, right? So the wiring, if you want to get the wiring done, so you'll go to a place like in Masanaf, where I told you that my guy, the guy that I normally use to repair wiring, his garage works simply on that. You'll use about 200,000 to get things put back in position. But sometimes this doesn't have to be done for a very long time. As long as there are no exposed wires that will do short circuits, you can drive your car for a very long time. And sometimes you won't even spend 200, you'll spend about 100,000. And 100,000, that's if you go to a person that is really good, very thorough, and they'll repair everything. So we have gone to 2.8. Now, if you're the kind of person that likes things that look new, you may decide that, okay, let me spend a week and I take this car to be resprayed. That's about 600,000 for the normal cars. So we have already spent 2.8, put 600,000, and you're paying a 3.4. That is 8 million and 400,000. And I'm telling you, by this time, your car is new. It's not new, but it's new condition. You have spent 8 point what? And the money I've told you, you don't have to spend it all in one day. You buy the car today, you repair little by little. You can say, when I buy my car, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to repair the suspension system and the shock absorbers, and I'll lodge the traffic officers for the tires. We have all played these games because this is Uganda. You get. And then you repair, and then they do wheel alignment, wheel balancing, okay? You drive your car. You say, I'll spend 2 months, then I'll buy tires. Then you buy tires. And that way, you will not even feel like you're repairing anything. Now, the things I'm telling you, these are things that I've done for like 10 years. Okay? And don't let anyone tell you, and all of a sudden it breaks down on the road. The people that have cars breaking down on the road, these are people that don't know what to repair. There are people that buy their cars at 5 million and they expect it to be brand new. If you go to buy an old car and you know it's not going to be new, you will realize that you can actually drive it properly. And there is someone that will come to tell you, oh Yarimba, me there is a time I bought a car, I bought it at 5 million and I spent 15 million. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Let me tell you, the reason why you end up spending a lot of money is because your mechanic is bad. Your mechanic is a thief. And this has happened to me also. It's a thieves. A mechanic will see something that can be where you can buy a new spare part at once, but they end up saying to repair ringe. So you repair something like 4 times. You repair something 4 times, it doesn't get better. They are taking your money. If you had bought something new at once, let me give you an example. The simplest thing for you to know is that the cooling system, you see the radiator? If your radiator starts leaking, for example, it is easier for you to just buy a new radiator. But you know what these mechanics do? They keep getting 50,000 out of you to go and repair the radiator. Later ye na tugende bateke ko top. Later yo musimanya banyigemu. For him, he keeps eating. Yet you can buy a new radiator, not more than 200. A new one. It comes with even the fans. It comes with the spare, the reserve tank. Brand new radiator. Okay, Japan used. You just replace it. But you know the 50,000 he keeps taking from you. He takes 50 today. He takes 30 the other day. Before you know it, 4 times he has taken the 200K that would have bought you a new radiator. That's how people end up spending 15 million repairing a car that they would have used 3 million. You get? Now the amount that I've given you, the 3.4, can go higher. Okay, but it can also go lower depending on the car you have bought. Don't be deceived that it will be constant. But I'm telling you from experience the things that I found that you will be repairing on a car. Sometimes you'll buy this car and you don't even need to respray it, so it will go lower. Sometimes you'll buy a car and you check the shock absorbers and they are still good. Sometimes you'll buy a car and the tires are still new. Sometimes you'll buy a car and the guy left the radio there. Sometimes you'll buy a car and the interior is intact. You get it? Sometimes you'll buy a car and you don't need to touch anything. You just drive for 2 years and you've bought it at 5 million. It has happened to me. You get? Don't be scared. But the things I'm telling you, these are things that I find that normally, these are things you have to repair. I hope I'm clear, guys. These are things that you normally have to do what? That you normally have to repair. So, I think I'm busting the myth. So now you just imagine, you have bought your car at 5 million, you have invested 3.4, you are 8.8, it's in new condition. Then now you're enjoying your car. Okay? Oh, let me just put this out there. That's most of these old cars don't have AC. It's times when you're lucky, like Arthur, that you find a car that you like and it also has air conditioning. If it doesn't have air conditioning, you can repair the air conditioning for between 300 to 500,000. You know, some air conditioning. Now, sometimes if you buy a car and you buy it very cheaply and the engine is bad, you'll spend about 500,000 to overhaul the engine. Now, those are instances where the costs that I've given you go higher. Okay? But if you buy a car with me, I'll make sure that you don't buy a car that needs to have an engine repaired. Or if it needs to have the engine repaired, then we deduct the money that we are buying the car also. So we buy it cheaper. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I hope I'm clear, guys. So let me just try to compare for you. You have bought an old car. At 5, you have put 3.4 and we have ended at 8.8. We have it in new condition. Okay, it's not going to be disturbing us. And someone buys a car at 25 million from the bond. Who do you think is saving? Forget about this bullshit that they tell us. Do you see the comparison I made for you the last time? The difference is that person has, they have a satisfaction that they have a new car, but they have spent more than 15 million. 15 million more than you. So for you, if you had 25 million on the account, you have used less. You can use the 15 million. If you started constructing, you can use the 15 million to finish your house and enter. And then you have a car that you can drive. I hope you get it. And you have not used, thank you, Robert, and you have not used all that money. And trust me, sometimes you don't have to use all this money at once, the 3 million. No. You repair what needs to be repaired then. Sometimes you can just repair the suspension, the shocks, you buy new tires so that the police doesn't disturb you. The other thing I did not tell you, sometimes these old cars have cracked windscreens. But when we are buying that car, we make sure we deduct all that money. I need to replace a windscreen, I deduct 250 for the windscreen. I need to repair engine, I deduct 500 to 700 for the engine. You get it? That's what I do for people that we go to buy cars with. So I'm still making a comparison. Someone buys a car at 25 million. Now let me tell you, when someone buys a car at 25 million from the bond, they are still going to spend money on that car. Let me tell you, it's very rare to buy a car from the bond and you drive it for 6 months without buying tires. So you have spent 700,000 on tires. Even the person that bought a car from the bond is going to spend that money to buy tires. Remember, they bought their car at 25 million, you bought yours at 5. So 700,000 from your money is also being spent by the other person. Okay? Oh, I didn't tell you, you need to do service as well. So, apart from that, it's very rare to find a person buying a car from the bond and they drive it. You see the distance I'm driving every day? It's very rare to find someone buying a car from the bond and they don't spend money on repairing bushes in that first year. And mark you, even me, I've repaired bushes once in the past 1 year. I've bought shocks once in the past 1 year. You get? Yet I bought my car cheaper than the person that went to the bond. There are repairs that will always be there. It's very hard to find someone buying a car from the bond and they don't change the radio. So you see that this expenditure that person has done, you're also doing. It's very hard to find someone from that buys a car from the bond, not having to also buy seat covers, not having to repair the floor of the car, because that makes it durable, because their car is new. So you see, they're spending money on the interior just like you. And if you're a hustler like me, chances are high that you're going to want, even when you buy a car from the bond, chances are high that you're going to want to repair that, and they are going to put things like guards and all. Yet when you buy your old car, sometimes the guard will be there, or you will not even need it because the car is old already. So you don't have nothing to protect that much. So I hope the math makes sense, guys. Sometimes it's easier for you to buy, especially when you're a hustler like me. So I think it was Lucius that was asking me why I don't buy a car why I'm still driving a car that is 10 million, that is less than 10 million. I'm hoping that now when I do the math for you guys, it kind of makes sense. So my workstation is at a studio somewhere today. I told you guys I'm a performing artist, so I produce films, plays and all that. So I write adverts and all. So today my workstation is at a studio where we're doing some pieces of work. Yeah. So you guys, I hope my math makes sense, that sometimes, so for the guys that have met me, they met me at this place. The guys that wanted to buy cars, they met me at this place because it has been my workstation for the past few months. Of course, I don't come here every day, but there are times I've been coming here and working from here. So you guys, I hope that the math makes sense, because that's the goal. That togenda ate nomalaga gula simply because it's comfort. Me, I don't buy comfort. I buy to fulfill my needs. And normally I need a car to move me from point A to point B, okay, to get me to work, take me back home. So let me just change this camera to face me. Thank you, Seth. Seth just sent me some money today morning. Yeah, I'm paying Zaka sent on my Airtel money. So I hope you guys, when I do the math, it kind of makes sense. That sometimes it's not about the money. You know, some people think when you throw money at a problem, it gets solved. It's not always that money solves problems. Actually, sometimes money can make your problems worse, because people will start thinking that you have a lot of money, but andiko kuba. And like I told you, there is a person that bought a car from the bond, and that very week the engine blew. You don't have to be that man whose engine blew in the first week, because it was new, so you thought it was new. So like I've said, the math kind of makes sense. If you buy the right car, get it inspected properly, and then you repair only the things that need to be repaired for the first few months. Sentezo knows some business, and that's why I told you, me, I can sell my car for like 9 million. I buy a car at 4 million. put money in my business, and make the other car almost new. You get? So the math is simply simple. You just have to be sharp. You do uh, pre-purchase inspection the right way, and you will have peace. You get? So I don't see a reason why you come back from your Dubai cheyo, you come back from the US, you have your 50 to 60 million, and then you say kangene mboni nguleka million atana mu mukaga. It doesn't really make sense. You get? You can buy a kawundo here on an older number plate at around 18 to 19 million, and then you keep the 40 million to do other things. That's if you want the kawundo. But if you want a simpler car, a cheaper car, why are you buying a car at 25 million? Why are you buying a Raum new model at 25 million from the bond when you can get one on the road at 13? And 13, I'm talking to those guys that actually have a lot of money. Why are you buying a Raum from the bond at 25 million when you can get it used on number plates like UBA, UAZ at around 13 million? And at 13, it also has simply no repairs. You'll just buy and drive. You get? But of course, you need people that will be honest with you, people that will tell you the truth. Because anyone that has bought a car, a new car, and that's all they know, they will tell you to buy a new car. Because every time I talk to people that buy new cars, the biggest reason why they bought those new cars was that they saw someone who bought a car from the bond and did not go to the garage for like 6 months, 8 months. That's the only reason they buy new cars. And of course, the prestige of Mvuga Kanamba. Now, for hustlers like me, it doesn't help me to drive Kanamba. For me, the biggest benefit I'm looking for in a car is I get to work, I get back home. And for Futenkuba, and Kuba Tenkuba, my family is safe. That's normally what I'm looking for in a car. I'm not looking for prestige, because I know when I'm 45 and 50, then I will be going to the bonding and moto kangapo in Jagara. When I'm older and I have a lot of money, I'll be able to buy cars the way I want. You get what I'm saying? So it's important that we pay attention to that. And nefutatomera. You get what I'm saying? Nefutatomera. It's important that you add the numbers, gata numbers out, so that you make sure you don't totomera. So I hope the math is simple. Let me try to answer questions now because I have to go. It's time for work. Is it? Yeah, I answered that. Yeah. Let's say I'm not in the country but coming back soon. Can I send you money, find me a good car, do all the necessary repairs, and I find it in my home ready to drive? Yes, that's very possible. So of course we talk. It's important I make you understand the kinds of cars that you need, okay, with your budget. Okay, and I tell you the kind of repairs that may need to be done. You also need to give me a person from your end, probably your wife, to be there, because now I don't buy the car in my names. I can buy the car in your names, and then your wife or your brother or someone signs for you. They take your papers, okay, and then I show them where the car is going to be worked on, okay. But of course I liaise with you and I tell you we're buying this car, it will need these repairs, and these repairs will cost this, okay, and then I'll tell you where we're going to buy the spares. And if you're, for example, people that are in Dubai, you can actually send your spares. You buy your spares from Dubai, you ship them to Kampala, and then you know that you have bought genuine spares. It's cheaper to buy spares from Japan, by the way, or Dubai. So you know the car. For example, we say we're going to buy Raum, and I tell you, you can buy shocks from Dubai. You buy shocks from Dubai for that Raum and you send them. Your car is parked at your home, you buy the shocks, send them to your person or your wife or your brother, then I send the mechanic, they go and put the shocks that you bought from Dubai there, and then it's a very good thing, because now you know you have bought genuine things that you drive the shocks for 3 years without repairing. You get? So if you're abroad, it's even better for you, because now you can buy your own shocks, you can buy your own spares. For example, I tell you, for example, we could buy a car and I tell you it has this problem, but if we buy it at this price and you buy that spare from that side and replace it, it's a good buy, and then you buy it from there. I hope I've answered you, Seth. Yes, you can buy your car and then we buy it together with one of your people here. And if they confirm that it's good, then we buy it and then we do the necessary repairs and you find the car in drivable condition. Yes, I can do that for you. So Sans is saying, I think it's Robert. Yeah. Can I get a Corolla 2001, 2003 at 10 million and below, which can be able to move every weekend? Now, let me tell you this, Sans. It's not just the Corolla that can move to those places. All cars, even if you bought a Chivina, even if you bought a Chikumi, the old model, it could actually go to all those places. Okay? Yeah. So can I get a Corolla? No, you cannot get a Corolla 2000 to 2003 model at 10 million or less. It would be chance. You know, there are those things we say luck. If you're lucky, you can get it. But of course, if you get it at 10 million and below, it would be, you'd have to do repairs. Now, the reason why I'm saying that I would sell my Corolla at 9 million is because it's manual. It's very hard to find people that can drive manual cars. So manual cars are generally cheaper to sell, cheaper to buy, and their resale value is a little low. You get, so that's why. But the automatics are, if you find an automatic UAM Corolla like mine, you'll find it at around 12 million. You get, yeah. So I think I've answered you. Good morning, Abbas. I think I've answered you, Sans. Yeah, but at 10 million, you'll get a car that can move you up country every weekend. Actually, you will get a car that can go up country every day and come back, and you'll still have no problems. Yeah, because I've driven my car, by the way, on a day when I was doing marketing in the field. I drove it for about 300 kilometers, and I didn't have any problems. So, someone said, George, Seth, just to be clear again, there are things that you can buy from Toyota Uganda and they'll be good. You can buy a fuel filter. I recommend that the plugs, you buy them from Toyota Uganda always. Some of the other things are very expensive for nothing, like the oil filter at Toyota Uganda. You'll find that they sell it at around 150, yet in the market here, normally you'll buy it at 10 to 20. You get, so unless if you're going to use their oil, and I only recommend this if you're driving new cars. You bought your car from the bond, it's a 2012. Now you can go and buy things from Toyota. You buy the oil from Toyota, buy oil filter from your Toyota, you get, because it's a new car. But if you buy driving a car like mine, no. Just buy the plugs from there and relax. So Mark II Grand, I think I talked about the Mark II Grand yesterday. Mark II Grand has two versions. There is one that came immediately after the Mark II Musota. That one, you differentiate them from the indicators. Now, the one that came immediately after the Musota has a small indicator in the side of the headlamp. But the very last one, I think is about the 6th generation, the one that came before the Mark X, it has an indicator that goes across the headlamp like that. That one is quite expensive. But that Mark II, the biggest disadvantage I think I find with those Mark IIs, the Altezas, and is that they are rear wheel drive. So if you live in places where it's slippery when it rains, you'll get stuck sometimes, you'll get trouble coming from home, you get. But other than that, those cars literally never break down. The only thing that normally you have to look out for is the ball joints in front, because the ball joints kind of get broken at the time when you least expect them. So I'll recommend that you replace the ball joints every couple of months. Every 6 months, you go to the garage, buy new ball joints and put them there. Then you'll have no problems. It's a motor Katezifa. Mark II Grand never. It's like the Musota, Mark II Musota. They just never break down. But always buy the cars that have the VVTi engine that is called Beams 2000. That engine is very nice. Even when you decide to buy the Alteza and the Mark II Grand are literally the same car. The spares are literally the same. The only problem is that the Alteza has a very low resale value. The Mark II Grand has quite a good resale value. They are 2000cc engine. They are not 2.5 like most people think. They are 2000cc, and they are very comfortable. And they literally never break down. So I'll recommend it. You can buy and drive it. You will enjoy the car. I drove a Mark II Musota for a year, and I enjoyed it. How much does it cost? The driving permit between 500 and 600, depending on where you go. Sienta AUAW series, don't buy a Sienta below UB series. Yeah, Ibra, don't buy a Sienta below you, because you're going to buy a Sienta UAU and they'll tell you they're selling to you at 13 million. Yet at 14 million, 13, even 13, you can get a UB series Sienta. Why? People don't really like the Sientas. Why? Because when someone buys a Sienta, they buy it because it's a 7-seater. Okay? Now they think it's going to perform like a Ipsam or a Wish. But it's a 1.5cc car, so it doesn't have a lot of energy. You put 7 people in that car, and it will not move properly. That's why most people sell them quicker. So a Sienta, if you have 13 to 14 million, go and look for a UB series. You can get even a UBE. You get at 13, 14 million. Of course, like I've told you, sometimes it's luck. It might come to a time when you look for a Sienta and it's only UAU, UAW, UAU, UAW, and they're saying, but don't buy US series in Sientas if you have 13 million. Don't. Always wait to get a UB series. Yeah. But they are good cars though. And someone asked about CVT gearboxes. Now, all cars that are 2000, I'll say 2006 and beyond, they have CVT gearboxes. Most cars those years, they have CVT gearboxes. Sienta, Fielder, Ractis, Primo, those Wishes, the new model, the RAV4s, the Harrier Kawundos. Most of those cars have CVT gearboxes. Now, the CVT gearbox is new technology. It's not bad, by the way. Don't get scared. It's not bad. The only problem is the CVT gearbox oil is expensive. And your mechanics are not honest. They will not tell you that you need to buy expensive, because ayagala kulia kasente bomugamba tukole service ya gearbox, they'll just do. And normally, you see the gearboxes that we have, the normal automatic gearboxes. The hydraulic oil is meant to make it easy for parts to move in the gearboxes. However, the CVT gearboxes don't have gears. The hydraulic oil for those gearboxes is meant to create friction. So when they put the normal hydraulic oil that we are used to here, it will just spoil the gearbox. That's why I've been telling you, if you have a car that has a CVT gearbox, don't do service until you buy the right oil. Normally, the right oil is expensive. You can even buy 5 liters at 800,000. And just know, if your CVT gearbox breaks down, it will cost you 4 million to replace. And mechanics here don't know how to repair them yet. So bajja kulima nti tujikola, and then they'll keep eating your money, and before you know it, emotoka ngekutami. So don't do service for your CVT gearboxes unless then this is where I will advise you to actually go to Toyota Uganda and buy the hydraulic oil for the CVT gearbox. You can go to Toyota Uganda, bobovuga Ractis, bobovuga Primo. You drive those cars that have CVT gearbox. You can actually check out the car. Google it before you buy a car. Does it have a CVT gearbox? You get, and then you'll find out. And then you can buy it when you know. And then you can also go to Toyota and ask how much is the gearbox for the CVT gearbox in this car, this model, and then they'll tell you. The same thing we do for plugs. You take the chassis number. You check the chassis number and then they give you the plugs. The same thing you'll do with the hydraulic. You go to Toyota Uganda. Naturally, about this is a new model from 2002 and above. What mechanical issues do they have besides their bodies being soft? Those cars are good. Those cars are good, let me tell you. The only problem with these new ones is that they're electronic. At a majority of the mechanics that we have, bali abasiba engine, bebakola bush zino, by replacing shocks, and majority of these cars, abazivuga, they don't drive them every day. They don't really break down. It's very hard to find a mechanic that will encourage you to buy a car that he will not be getting work on. It's very hard. Most of the mechanics will encourage you to buy a car ngagenda kubanga akulyako sente. Ontegera kyenkugamba. But these new ones, they literally never break down. When they break down, it's electronics. These guys, mechanics, wiring mechanics are very few. Actually, if you're there and you're coming back to Uganda and you don't know what you're going to do when you come back to Uganda, this is my recommendation. If you want to get a skill, for example, go to a garage where they do wiring. Pay that guy 1 million, tell him to teach you how to do wiring for vehicles. That is the new thing. That's the new area where there is going to be a lot of money. Mechanical engineering, for example. Because most of the cars that now we are getting are electronic. And most of the mechanics that we have, they replace gearboxes. They are just mechanical. They are not electronics. So if you learn how to repair electronics of cars, you'll make a lot of money. You get. So that's why mechanics are discouraging you, because those cars are electronic. Also, those cars, they don't have what we call the temperature gauge. They overheat. Now, when the car overheats, you'll normally have to buy a new cylinder head, because those cylinder heads are not repaired. Some of them are aluminium. And the cylinder head, you'll find that you'll have to buy it at 2 million. Normally, people that buy cars don't have 2 million lying down there, so they don't have the 2 million to buy the cylinder head. So mechanic tayagala omukyawe nti yaguze emmotoka n'ekyamuka, you get, because you don't have the 2 million to buy the cylinder head. So they discourage you from those cars because normally people don't pay attention to the dashboard. Emmotoka ekyamuka nga waligirabye ng'egenda okutandika okukyamuka and you stop, but normally people don't pay attention to the dashboard. So the newer 2002 models, as long as you know what to look out for when you drive the car, as long as you know what to inspect, those cars have no problem. Otherwise, people would not be driving them. And like I've said, majority of the cars that we have problems in Uganda, the problems are actually not the cars. The problems are the mechanics. I've told you, German cars. The problems of German cars are not actually the German cars. It's the mechanics. The mechanics, first of all, they make sure to tell you that spares are expensive, so that they sell you expensive spares. Then bamakanika benyini batte ebintu. Makanika wa golf asobola okusigala ngatte ebintu mu mmotoka yo, so that asigala akubba. Makanika wa Benz akola kyekimu. Makanika wa BMW akola kyekimu. Because the cars are few on the road, kitegeeza, the few cars that he repairs, he has to get a lot of money out of them. The same thing with those new ones. The problem is actually not the car. The problem, you'll find that it's the mechanic. I have to go, guys. I hope it has been a good chat. Thank you very much, Seth, for the money. Seth Ampereza Yaka Sente. You can also send. So Ibra Totia, as long as you inspect that new one, make sure it's in good condition. Jigule. What Sienta? Don't buy a Sienta that is UA series. Buy UB series. Just no Sientas have CVT gearboxes, and majority of people have serviced their gearboxes with the wrong oils, and gearboxes are disturbing them. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm done, guys. I think I've answered everything. So guys, thank you very much, Seth, Kenneth, Tor, Brian, Ryan from Bangladesh, George, Martha, Sons, I think your name is Robert, Maliki, Abbas, Ibra. Thank you so much. Which garage in Uganda can you recommend for servicing? Guys don't need close supervision. Is Mandela good? I think service, Seth, I think service is something they do within 30 minutes. So you actually need to be there. Service. Go to a Total, go to a Shell, and let them do service. Let them put the oil because we know why sometimes they will put old oil. You get. So go to a Shell, go to a Total, go to a City Oil. I have problems with City Oil. I use City Oil for service one time in my car, and the engine never got silent until I actually went to a Shell. I'm not decampaigning City Oil. I use City Oil fuels these days. City Oil mafuta, but I've had problems with their oil. I'd have probably to get someone from City Oil to clarify that. Ambulire wache moroka yange yagana okusirika nga ntaddemu oil waba ate nga bwentekamu wa Shell engine yange esirika bulungi. You get. So service is something that is done in 20 to 30 minutes. So genda bakole service inga woli. I'm actually going to teach you guys how to do service. I'm going to start doing service for my car myself. Yes, service I'll document it and I'll show you. Service is not hard. Service, for people to do service, they remove the oil filter, the old oil filter. Okay. Now the next thing they do is they put the nail back, put a new oil filter, never you want more oil. That is service. The next thing probably they will do is they'll get the oil air cleaner, then they put a new air cleaner. Most of the times they get the oil air cleaner, they replace it. Then they'll check the battery to make sure it has acid. Then they check the brake fluid to make sure it's there. If you've been to another I'm going to show you how to do. Sometimes me, I go to Shell not because I can't do these things, but because of time. Sometimes service guako nga encho inokola and you need 30 minutes. Ogenda tuke wakachiro. You get what I'm saying. But some of these things you can actually do yourself. Abazungu babyekolera ate betwegomba. You get. So garage, I don't want to say I recommend this garage because nemu garage. This is not the garage that actually works. It's individuals. You can go to a garage and then you get a mechanic agenda kuba. You get? So I'm still doing surveys. Very soon I'll be telling you that you guys, if you want to get your car in good condition, omuntu takubba, because abantu bamakanika babbi bubbi. You get? The garages have no problem. It's the individuals that work in the garages that have a problem. You may find a garage nti buli muntu akanikira ya complaining naye nga gwe wafuna makanika omulungi. And let me tell you this thing, mechanics babbi, generally makanika bonna babbi. Obubbi buli mu degree that someone bwaba akuguza shock ayongeramu omutwalo, omulala n'ayongeramu 10, omulala n'ayongeramu 2. Obubbi buli ku degrees a level. And normally when a mechanic gets used to you, atandika okubba. I don't know why that's the thing. It's a thing we have in Uganda. I'm very soon I'm going to talk about the models of mechanics. I know kweno chano kuliko abantu abagenda ebweru nga ba makanika. Kweno chano kuliko abantu abagenda ebweru nga basobola okukanika nga asobola okudda n'akola garage and it will be good. I'm going to tell you a model that mechanics in Uganda and garages have failed to use that Toyota uses, and that's why Toyota gets government cars, NGO cars. I think atusanga nga zifudde ku kkubo. Actually, emmotoka za government zosanga zifidde ku kkubo ze balekera okanikirayo mba distributor ayagala ogitwala mu Nissan oba motokeya yagala ogitwala mu Toyota kyovula zitandika okufa because basitwala mu garages ebbali. You get what I'm saying? So I'll give you the model, but I'll come back later, and then I'm going to upload the video that I did yesterday of a motorcycle. Yeah, I rode a motorcycle. I'm giving you guys option. So yes, I did a review on the motorcycle yesterday. I've been riding that motorcycle for some time as well. So I don't drive it on open road. Because first of all, I like driving very fast. You get? So I think I have to go, guys. I have to go to work, but it has been very nice. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I wish you a very nice day. Mukama basasire abagenda okwebaka, good night. So thank you very much, Seth, for the airtime. Yeah, all right, guys, have a very nice day. Ciao.